I am Annie Mazes, and I handle library marketing for all of the adult titles at Workman Publishing. This is our Instagram and my Twitter feed, so you can follow along on social media. That's me. Hello. We have about 10 imprints under the Workman umbrella, and so there is a book for every type of reader. Also very important, please make note of this link. It is case sensitive, but after this presentation, you can download the slides so you don't have to remember everything that I talk about today. And I am going to be talking about a lot of titles, so please bear with me for the next 25 minutes or so. Jumping into some favorite summer titles that have just come out or are about to, we've got The Lives of Edie Pritchard. This is an engaging and perceptive novel by acclaimed novelist Larry Watson. It examines the life of a woman who is very aware of her physical beauty and also constrained by it. It takes place in a small town and how that can shape her over the decades. Hieroglyphics by Jill McCorkle deconstructs and reconstructs what it means to be a father and a mother, and what it means to be a child, piecing together the world around them in this beautiful novel for fans of Commonwealth or My Name is Lucy Barton. When the World Feels Like a Scary Place is a favorite of mine, and unfortunately very relevant and useful right now. Dr. Abigail Gerowitz provides scripts for caregivers to have conversations with children about big issues that can affect them, including COVID and social justice. These are conversations for children of all ages 2 to 18. Miracle Country is a crazy good environmental memoir for fans of wild, and H is for hawk. It's a tale of Kendra Atlee-Work's family and an environmental history of the small town that she grew up in California. With or Without You is from author favorite Caroline Levitt. What do you do if your partner is suddenly not the same person you've spent 20 years with? When Stella wakes up from a coma with an incredibly new artistic ability, her struggling musician husband begins to wonder, what do we owe the people in our lives, and when does the cost become too great? And A House is a Body. I'm just going to read this incredible quote from Kise Lemon, author of Heidi. A House is a Body will not simply be talked about as one of the greatest short story collections of the 2020s. It will change the way all stories, short and long, are told, written, and consumed. There is nothing, no emotion, no tiny morsel of memory, no touch that this book does not take seriously. Yet, A House is a Body might be the most fun I've ever had in a short story collection. I could not have said that better. Continuing on, these are titles that are coming out between September and January, so you can get a leg up on what you'd like to read over the next few months. The Hidden Life of Ice. Barely inhabited, the Arctic is an alien world to most of us. It also holds critical clues about the future of our planet. The Hidden Life of Ice, Markoe Tedesco invites us to Greenland, where he and his fellow scientists are doggedly researching the dramatic changes. Following the arc of his typical day at work, Tedesco unearths the secrets in the ice, from evidence of long extinct polar camels to the fantastically weird microorganism living at freezing temperatures. Tedesco weaves together the facts on climate change with poetic reflections on this endangered landscape, the epic deeds of great Arctic explorers, and the legends of the rare local populations. Impersonation. Just a side note, these are books in chronological order, so I'm going to be jumping from nonfiction to fiction, but it is timed in how they're coming out and will be available. Impersonation by Heidi Pitlor. Allie Lang is a professional ghostwriter and a perpetually broke single mother to a young boy. And Alana Brabane is a high-profile lawyer, economist, and advocate for women's rights, and she has designs on elected office. She also happens to be a mother. Together, they make the perfect feminist mother. Lana and her staff have decided she needs help softening her image in the eyes of the public, and that a memoir about her life as a mother will help. Allie struggles to write Lana's books as obstacles pile up. Not enough childcare, looming deadlines, a subject who is incredibly not responsive. Eventually, Lana comes to require far too much of Allie and even her child, and Allie is tested to see if she can stand up for herself and ask for what she deserves. This is for fans of Mrs. Fletcher and the female persuasion. Acclaimed Heidi Pitlor tells a timely, funny, and insightful story of ambition, motherhood, and class. It received a starred Kirkus review. His Only Wife is such a fun read. Afi Tekpel is a young seamstress who lives in a small town in Ghana with her widowed mother. One day, she's offered a life-changing opportunity, a proposal of marriage from the wealthy family of Alikum Ganyo. She agrees because such opportunity, but soon realizes that Alicum is not quite the catch that he seems. He sends a stand-in to his own wedding, and it's not until weeks after they've been married that he shows up at her apartment that she's been installed in the city of Accra. It turns out that he's in love with another woman who his family disapproves of, and they want Afi to win him back from this other woman. But it is eventually the city of Accra that wins Afi's heart and gives her a life of independence that she could never have imagined for herself. Peace Adzo Medie is a brilliant scholar and a fierce advocate for women's rights. This is a charming and very commercial book for readers of Chimamanda Adichie and Candace Carty-Williams. It got a starred Kirkus review that called it the Crazy Rich Asians for West Africa. A lot of fun, totally enjoyable. Something completely different, immunity. The immune system is our first line of defense against the hordes of microbes that threaten us constantly. Just like our heart and our lungs, it works around the clock to keep us alive. This book, Immunity, answers the question, what can I do to strengthen my immune system? Dr. Jenna Macciochi has studied the interplay of immunity, lifestyle, and health for over 20 years, and her book is filled with authoritative guidance on the best foods to eat to boost your immune system, the importance of movement and how often to exercise, the essential link between immunity and sleep, and so much more. Dr. Macciochi also debunks common myths, explores why some people never get ill, and explains how germs can actually be good for us. Love, Zach. I just can't live with this pain anymore were among the final words in the diary of Zach Easter, a young man from small town Iowa. In December of 2015, Zach decided to take his own life rather than continue his losing battle against the traumatic brain injuries he had sustained as a no-holds-barred high school football player. In this deeply reported and powerfully moving true story, award-winning sports writer Reid Forgrave speaks to Zach's family, friends, and coaches. He explores Zach's tightly knit, football-obsessed Midwestern community. He interviews cutting-edge brain scientists, psychologists, and sports historians, and he takes a deep dive into the triumphs and sins of the sports entertainment industry. Eye-opening, important, and ultimately inspiring, Love, Zach challenges us to think carefully about the ideals and values we as a nation want to instill in future generations. How to Astronaut. This book is very fun. It follows Terry Virts' journey from astronaut training to becoming the commander of the International Space Station. But unlike most memoirs and accounts by former astronauts, which tend to be a little bit sober and serious, Virts' take is offbeat, earnest, and often quite funny. It offers behind-the-scenes looks at the training, the basic rules, lessons, and procedures of space travel, including how to deal with a dead body in space, what it's like to film an IMAX movie in orbit, and what exactly to do when nature calls. There are 51 chapters filled with all of these fun behind-the-scenes tidbits. Iwigara. When translated, it means the kinship of plants and people. And this is exactly what Enrique Salmon, head of the American Indian Studies program at Cal State University, explores in this fascinating book. Iwigara shares culturally specific information about 80 plants, addressing their historical and modern day uses as medicine, food, and spices. Iwigara shares culturally, it includes plants and trees derived from many different American Indian tribes and 7 geographic regions across the United States. Each plant entry includes the names commonly used by different tribes, a color photograph, a short description, and tips on identification and ethical harvest. Traditional stories and myths, along with images of the plants from different forms of Native American arts and crafts, enrich the text. Storey's curious compendium of practical and obscure skills. Storey has been publishing books into the how-to space for decades, and now they've put together a comprehensive collection of all of their interests, with dozens of useful and intriguing visual tutorials that cover how to carve a turkey, capture a swarm of bees, predict the weather by the clouds, darn socks, create a butterfly garden, set up a dog agility course, keep a nature sketchbook, navigate by the stars, and more. This rich resource will educate, fascinate, spark conversation, and inspire new hobbies and experiences. Uprooted. When Paige Dickey moved away from her celebrated garden at Duck Hill, she left a landscape that she had spent 34 years making, nurturing, and loving. She found her next chapter in southern Connecticut on 17 acres of rolling fields and woodland. In Uprooted, you follow her journey, searching for a new home, discovering the ins and outs of the landscape surrounding her new garden, establishing the garden, and learning how to be a different kind of gardener. She was in her 70s when she made this move to a much larger space, a time when most people are downsizing. And the trick when gardening was to garden smarter and let nature do a lot of the work. This is written with humor and elegance, and Uprooted is an endearing story about transitions and the satisfaction and joy that new horizons can bring. Down Along with That Devil's Bones. When journalist Connor Towne O'Neill moved to Alabama as a white Northerner, he felt somewhat removed from the racism Confederate monuments represented. But as he witnessed people's response to the battle over their removal, it became clear that he played a part because white supremacy is not a regional affliction, but it is in fact coded into the DNA of our entire country, as I think we have seen with recent events. Through the lens of these conflicts surrounding Nathan Bedford Forrest statues, he was the first Grand Wizard of the KKK, O'Neill examines the legacy of white supremacy in America in a sobering and important work that will appeal to readers of Tony Horowitz, Timothy B. Tyson, and Robin DiAngelo. Kesey Lamone, author of Heavy, says, "We can no longer see ourselves as minor spectators or weary watchers of history after finishing this astonishing work of nonfiction." Switch gears a little bit. The Midnight Bargain. I'm very excited about this book. It's romance meets fantasy. Beatrice Claiborne is a sorcerer who practices magic in secret. She is terrified of the day that she will be locked into marriage and lose her magic in order to protect her unborn children. She dreams of becoming a full-fledged sorceress and pursuing magic as her calling, as men are able to do, but her family is in severe debt and only she can save them by securing an advantageous match before their creditors come calling. In a stroke of luck, Beatrice finds another way to become a sorceress, but she must enter into a pact that could see her lose her heart. So, what will it be? Lost heart or lost magic? And how can she choose one path, knowing she will forever regret the path not taken? There's a healthy dose of feminism in this book. It is awesome. So full of fun. It takes place during Regency era times. It is just a delight. The Good Ancestor. The most important question we can ask ourselves is, are we being good ancestors? So posited Jonas Salk, who cured polio in 1953. Salk saved millions of lives, but he refused to patent his cure and never made any money off of it. His radical rethinking of what we owe future generations should be an inspiration to all of us, but it has not quite taken hold. Businesses can barely see past the next quarter. Politicians can certainly not see past the next election. We rarely stop to consider whether we're being good ancestors, but the future entirely depends on it. Here, leading public intellectual, philosopher, and best-selling author Roman Krznaric explains 6 practical ways that we can retrain our brains to save our future. His aim is to shift our allegiance from our generation only to all humanity, present and future. The New Rules of Aging Well. Frank Lipman is a leader in wellness in integrative and functional medicine, and the New Rules of Aging Well contains everything he teaches his patients about reversing the so-called symptoms of aging. Symptoms like feeling lousy and looking puffy are absolutely not a given of aging. They're warning signs that you need to change your lifestyle. It's your lifestyle choices, not your genes, that have a tremendous effect on how you age. And in this book, you will learn how to make the best choices in order to look and feel younger and feel better all around. We Saw Scenery. Perfect for fans of Roz Chast, Ally Broche, and Linda Berry, We Saw Scenery is a superstar, Emmy-winning comedian Merrill Markoe's laugh-out-loud story of growing up, told in graphic memoir form. Markoe takes readers back through her time as a Girl Scout, where she learned that scouting was really more like learning housewifery skills, to her earliest crushes on uniquely awful boys and her growing obsession with television. As she charts the divide between her adolescence and adulthood, Markoe questions and berates her younger self, revealing how much is opaque to us in those younger years. I am so excited about Paper Bullets. It's a true story, but more importantly, it is the little-known tale of 2 brave and creative women determined to rebel against the Nazis as only they could through their art. Lucy Schwab and Suzanne Malherbe, better remembered today by their artist names Claude Cahun and Marcel Moore, distributed Paper Bullets, Wicked Insults Against Hitler, called calls to rebel, and subversive fictional dialogues designed to demoralize and subvert Nazi troops until they were captured and sentenced to death in 1944. They survived and went on to create gender-bending art. The story is so good. It's for readers interested in Jewish history, the LGBTQ movement, art, political resistance, and it has the support of a few little-known folks like Hampton Side and Douglas Brinkley. Wake up grateful. What does it mean to truly live gratefully every day? In Wake Up Grateful, Kristi Nelson, Executive Director of a Network for Grateful Living, unlocks the path to recognizing abundance in every moment and gives readers the tools to bring their transformational shift in perspective into their daily lives. Nelson goes beyond the proverbial question of whether the glass is half full or half empty and encourages readers to awaken to the gift of having a glass at all. With questions for reflection, daily exercises, and perspective prompts for appreciating the fullness of life as it is right now, this book promises profound personal change through the practice of taking nothing for granted. Big Girl, Small Town. Meet Magella O'Neill, a heroine like no other, in this captivating Irish debut that has been called The Milkman Meets Dairy Girls. Magella is happiest out of the spotlight, away from her neighbors' stares and the gossips of the small town in Northern Ireland where she grew up during the Troubles. Underneath Magella's seemingly ordinary life are the facts that she doesn't know where her father is and that every person in her town has been changed by the lingering divide between Protestants and Catholics. When Magella's predictable existence is upended by the death of her granny, she comes to realize that there may be a whole big world outside her small town. Told in a highly original voice, this will appeal to fans of Sally Rooney and Otessa Moshfegh. On Fragile Waves is a lovely magical realism book. Firouzeh and her brother, Noor, are children of fire, born in Afghanistan, fractured by war. When their parents decide to leave, they spin fairy tales of their destination, the mythical land of opportunities, Australia. As the family journeys from Pakistan to Indonesia to Nauru, heading toward a hope of home, they must rely on fragile and temporary shelters, strangers both mercenary and kind, and friends who vanish as quickly as they're found. When they arrive in Australia, what seemed like a stable shore gives way to treacherous currents. Neighbors, classmates, and the government seek their own ends, indifferent to the family's fate. For Firouzeh, her fantasy world provides some relief that as her family and home splinter, she must surface from these imaginings and find a new way. This book has magical realism at its heart, but clearly it touches on very relevant topics. How to sleep. Sleep difficulties affect millions of people. Hello. And this book addresses what to do with that. What sets this book apart is that Dr. Rafael Pelayo has spent over 25 years as both a clinical professor and a practicing sleep physician. Pelayo's approach is to first teach readers how sleep works. He explains what the body needs through the night, that the need for sleep is biological, but the way we sleep is learned, how much sleep you actually need each night, and that you can get by with less. Then once readers understand sleep and why it is so essential to our health and well-being, he offers a clear path to better sleep with a flexible approach that will work for everyone. Next up, In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, which is a title you're unlikely to forget, but it is a book that I have found incredibly helpful. It's not a subject you might not want to discuss, mortality, but it is everything you need to help organize your life, from Netflix passwords to social media accounts, finances, funeral plans for a calmer life now, and to make things easier for loved ones you leave behind. The authors are founders of Everplans, a digital company that helps people of all ages organize their lives, but you don't need to have anything to do with Everplans. This book has everything you need in it. I am a huge fan of this book. I have seen firsthand what can happen if people aren't prepared in situations like this, and this book has me feeling better about when I'm going to leave for my child one day without any of the concern, because, hopefully that's a long way from now. It's so much better to manage it now than have to deal with it whenever. So in case you get hit by a bus, not a super fun book to talk about, but incredibly helpful. And At the Edge of the Hate. This is the winner of the 2019 Penn Bellwether Prize for Socially Engaged Fiction. Maddie Donato, homeless at 20, has made a family of sorts for herself in the dangerous spaces of San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. She knows whom to trust, where to eat, when to move locations, and how to take care of her dog. When she unwittingly witnesses the murder of a young homeless boy and is seen by the perpetrator, everyone from the police to the dead boy's parents suddenly want to talk to her. Against the backdrop of a radically changing San Francisco, a city which embraces the booming tech economy while struggling to maintain its culture of tolerance, at the edge of the hate follows the lives of those who depend on makeshift homes and communities. Author Hilary Jordan says, this book pulled me deep into a world I knew little about, bringing the struggles of its young homeless inhabitants, the kind of people you avoid eye contact with on the street, to vivid, poignant life. The novel demands that you take a close look. If you knew, could you still ignore, fear, or condemn them? And knowing, how can you ever forget? Next up, we have some group slides. Just some fun things that are coming out. Nature and Crafts. Earth Almanac is by renowned nature writer Ted Williams. He captures the wonders of the natural world in this series of short observational essays that describe the fleeting beauty of each season. It's quite zen, dipping in and out of this. It's a delightful read. Life in the Studio. This is a handbook for leading a creatively fulfilling life from renowned potter Frances Palmer. Readers are brought behind the scenes with hundreds of gorgeous photographs of her ceramics, her beautiful flower arrangements, her gardens, and even step-by-step instructions of her most cherished techniques and recipes. The Kinfolk Garden is the next book in the highly successful Kinfolk series. It invites readers into 30 spaces that blur the lines between indoors and out, from jungle-like rooftops to sprawling backyards, and an easy approach to bringing nature into your home. The Art of Tapestry Weaving has a fresh new look. With this in-depth technique guide and small, inexpensive loom, fiber enthusiasts learn to create a range of images with yarn, including funky abstract designs, detailed geometric configurations, and realistic pictures. Few cookbooks to finish this out. Field Guide to Cheese just is my happy place 1000%. This is the ultimate cheese compendium and the only illustrated guide with profiles of more than 400 cheeses from around the world, maps of their production, and guides for perfect pairings. Give me liberty and give me a drink. A cocktail book complete with a tour of America's most bizarre booze laws, with 65 recipes and 65 laws representing every state in the union, written by the nation's foremost alcohol reform expert. Cancer survivor Richard Lombardi, the cancer-fighting chef, shares the easy and nutritious recipes that got him through his treatment and cooking through cancer. And the French Laundry per se. Thomas Keller is America's most beloved and decorated chef, and the French Laundry per se have each been awarded 3 Michelin stars. Now you too can cook, as they do in these legendary American institutions. And finally, dessert. What is dinner without dessert? Baking at the 20th Century Cafe, one of San Francisco's most talented pastry chefs shares 75 recipes and her secrets for modern spins on the decadent baked goods of Middle Europe. Skinny Southern Baking is from the creator of Skinny Southern, an Emmy Award-winning chef Laura Lynn Carter. She's reinvented her favorite Southern cookies, pies, and more with completely gluten-free, dairy-free, and refined sugar-free recipes. And finally, the Pie Academy. The critically acclaimed dean of the Pie Academy, Ken Heydrich, delivers a masterclass in pie making with step-by-step photographic tutorials for perfect crusts and more than 250 recipes for pies of every flavor and style, from berry, fruit, nut, custard, chiffon, and cream to freezer pies, slab pies, turnovers, and so much more. That is it for me, Annie Mazes from Workman Publishing. Thank you so much for listening in. And I appreciate you. Take care. Stay safe.